Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive, deeply historic rivalry that bridges a 16-year gap: South Africa versus Mexico. We're talking immense pressure, deafening environments, and that incredibly heavy weight of expectations when the entire globe zeroes in on a single pitch.
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand exactly where we're going, we really have to understand where we've been. So we're dropping right back into the visceral, sensory memory of that 2010 opening match. Imagine walking toward the stadium, right? Just crossing a local soccer field. The air itself is literally vibrating. You hear what sounds like sirens going off absolutely everywhere. The atmosphere isn't just loud, it's, well, as it was described back then, crazy. You can actually feel the electricity and the raw, unbridled anticipation of a host nation stepping onto the world's biggest stage.
And that atmosphere translated directly into a fiercely formidable home field advantage. The Mexican fans? They'd traveled thousands of miles to support their team, bringing their own incredible passion. But honestly, that traveling support was just completely swallowed up. The host nation generated this absolute wall of noise. A sheer volume that literally drowned out the shouts of the Mexican fans. Right from the very first second, South Africa created an incredibly intimidating, overwhelming environment for the visiting side.
Now, you might be wondering what makes this specific encounter so uniquely challenging. We aren't just talking about your standard group stage game here. This is the opening match. These are notoriously complicated fixtures. Why? Because the pressure is just immense. The entire world, and especially the host country, literally comes to a complete standstill. Both South Africa and Mexico knew, walking out of that tunnel, that this was going to be an exceptionally tough fixture. It carries a unique psychological burden that literally no other game in the entire tournament has.
And then, the game kicks off, and the host nation experiences something truly breathtaking. It was a glorious moment for South Africa. It was the exact kind of moment that defines the very beauty of sport, a singular, electrifying flash of brilliance that united the whole country in absolute rejoicing. For so many people watching, this was the exact moment their deep love of football started. It was like a dream realized in real time, sending an already deafening crowd into absolute overdrive.
Let's move to and see how this builds across the actual 90 minutes on the pitch, because this was a true chronological roller coaster. We start with beat 1, that deafening starting noise that set the stage. Then we hit beat 2, South Africa striking first, claiming that glorious, unifying moment. But, the game doesn't just end there. The momentum totally shifts, leading us directly into beat 3, the inevitable pushback from the visiting side, culminating in Mexico's equalizer.
Looking at it from Mexico's perspective, the tension was just palpable. Despite the overwhelming noise in that early setback, Mexico knew they had a really good team. They were relying on their talented, high-quality players to mount a comeback and completely turn the game around. And that's exactly what they pushed for. They pushed and pushed forward, leading to a pivotal moment, a decent ball sent squarely into the box. 3 Mexican players are waiting right there. The tension peaks, and you're thinking, surely this has to be it.
So, the crucial point is that ball actually finds its mark. After all the build-up, all the intense noise, and all the tactical back and forth, the dramatic climax of the 2010 encounter ends in a deadlock, 1-1. A perfectly balanced scoreline after a wonderfully unbalanced, emotionally volatile 90 minutes on the pitch.
South Africa won, Mexico won. Now, this wasn't just a draw. It was a highly complicated opening result that completely lived up to the massive global hype. But more importantly for our explainers today, this tense deadlock cemented a historical rivalry. Because there was no definitive victor, it left a profound sense of unfinished business between the two sides. It really left us with a lingering question of what on earth happens when these two forces inevitably meet again.
And that brings us to the core emotional takeaway. It really emphasizes this universal feeling. When these monumental games happen, time just seems to stand still. The world stops. The country stops. But here's the catch. In that stillness, the pressure doesn't just vanish. It actually compounds. The tension increases. And it's exactly this escalating pressure that shifts our focus away from the history of 2010 straight toward the impending reality of the future.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive pivot in our narrative arc. Back in 2010, the dynamic saw South Africa leaning heavily on the immense power of their home crowd. But looking ahead to 2026, the equation is entirely flipped. Mexico is the one bringing the home advantage. We're explicitly contrasting that legendary 2010 home field advantage with what's waiting for us just around the corner.
The roles are now entirely reversed. We've seen just how incredibly heavy the burden of an opening match is for the host nation, right? All those expectations, the entire country coming to a standstill, the absolute burning necessity to deliver a glorious moment. Well, that crushing weight of home field expectation no longer rests on South Africa. This time around, that immense, almost suffocating pressure falls squarely on the shoulders of Mexico.
Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. We know the history, we know the noise, we know the incredibly high stakes. So when the world comes to a complete standstill once again in 2026, who will truly be able to handle the tension of these reversed roles? Will Mexico thrive under the deafening roar of their own host nation crowd, or will South Africa completely flip the script and silence the stadium? Thank you for walking through this explainer with me. Keep this history in mind, because 2026 is going to be absolutely fascinating.